Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's DAF is Bava Metzia DAF Dalet. We're actually on the top of Dalet Amud Aleph, but perhaps let's just back up a couple of lines to the bottom of Gimel Amud Beis, second from the bottom, Mala Eid Echad. So we're basically continuing. We're picking up in the middle of a discussion. Rabbi Yehuda tells us in a brisa that just as when a person himself admits, he partially admits to a claim. Reuven told Shimon, look, remember I lent you $100? Shimon says, look, 50, yeah, but the other 50, no clue. That's called the Bava Metzia, it's partial admission. And what happens is, it triggers a Shavua obligation on account of Shimon. So Shimon has to, on the part of Shimon, so Shimon has to go ahead and swear to back up his partial denial. What happens if he himself totally denied, but to aid him, came along and told us that Shimon owes 50. So he has to pay the 50. Question is, does that partial incrimination coming from the Eidim, coming as a result of the Eidim's testimony, is that treated like a Bava Metzia, which sort of puts Shimon on shaky ground and makes his whole position suspect, and triggers a Shvua, which would require him to swear in order to confirm that in fact he does not owe the rest. Does it do so or not? Shvua of Bava Metzia is specific to personal admission as opposed to Eidim. Rochia says, yeah, there's going to be a Shvua, and the question is why. So we had a Kal V'chomer, and at last count we're basing the Kal V'chomer on Eid Echad. Now the halacha is that an Eid Echad can trigger a Shvua. In the following case, you have Reuven against Shimon. Reuven says, where's my money? $100. Shimon says, nothing. Eid Echad comes and supports Reuven's position, that Shimon owes him the full 100. Shimon now has to counter that testimony, has to oppose the Eid Echad with a Shvua to back up his claim. Now, if an Eid Echad who cannot really force payment, he can't do that, but he can still force a Shvua, two Eidim that can bring about payment, certainly they can bring about Shvua, that's the Kal V'chomer. Comes the Gemara on the second from the bottom line, Mala Eid Echad, what do you mean? You can't compare to the Eid Echad. Shekein al mashu meidu nishba. Shimon now is swearing directly against the Eid Echad, who's incriminating him. So sure, the Eid Echad has the ability to trigger that Shvua. Tamer B'Eidim, as opposed to your proposal that you want Shimon to swear in a case where Eidim said what? What did they say? They said that Shimon owes 50. Okay, those 50 he pays. But you want to now stretch that and have him swear on the part that he's denying. Who says they can do that? Who says the Eidim's bringing him to pay the 50 will go ahead and be taken a step further and trigger a Shavua that he's obligated now to defend his position on the other 50 that he's denying, which doesn't really relate directly to the Eidim. Who says they have the ability to do that, right? Let's take it first. That's a stretch. You're suggesting that he's going to be making a Shavua on the part that he denies. That's being very strict. Who says Eidim had the koyach to do that? Elomar Papa, you're right. Asim migilgul shvua de Eid Echad. Allah is, suppose an Eid Echad triggers a shvua under those circumstances that we spoke. Now, a fellow with a claim had another claim, which didn't have the ability to trigger a shvua. There was no Eid Echad supporting that claim, etc. So now we can actually include that claim in this shvua. It's called Gilgul Shavua. It's like sort of you're packaging it together. You're allowed to bundle it together. Once you're on the shvua stand, on the shvua, mode, in the shvua mode, we're allowed to do something Gilgul Shavua, which means bundle, package together other claims, which you now must include in your shvua. Rashi brings, based on the Gemara in Kedushin, It's learned from the halach of Saita, where she answers to the shvua by saying Amen, Amen, Amen. Right? So it includes all the cases where shvua would not, would not be imposed. But once she's swearing anyways, we include everything. So now, if an eid echad is mechayev, he triggers a shvua, the fellow with a claim who's being supported by the eid echad has the kayach. He has the option of including other different claims into this shvua as well. Okay, there you go. So it turns out that the eid echad has the ability, in a sense, has the ability to impose, to obligate the opponent to swear on something which the eid echad is not relating to directly, right? So if he can do that, certainly the two eidim can do in similar fashion. They can do the same thing in our case where they are testifying about the 50 that he owes, and we want to use that to trigger a shvua to obligate him to defend himself with a shvua on the part that he's denying. Well, you can't compare. Mal gilgul shvua de eid echad. You know how gilgul shvua works? It's not the eid echad that's doing it. It's the shvua. You're enlarging the shvua. Once you're swearing, you include everything. Shekin shvua, gerera shvua, like mitzvah gerera. The shvua itself draws into it other elements as well. It's a shvua. It's about the shvua. It's not about the eid echad. Right? It's an element within shvua that allows you to do that. Rabbi Yehuda, as opposed to the case where the eidim are triggering this, we're trying to have the eidim trigger this shvua by the 50 and the 50. The moment kamachayvi, they're not triggering a shvua outright. They're obligating him to pay 50, and you want to use that as a springboard to get him to swear. Who says you can do that? Well, piv yechiach. We'll undo that argument by looking at the basic halacha of moed b'miktzas. Piv means when a person himself admits to partial guilt, right? Admits to part of the claim. Moed b'miktzas. So he makes a shvua. That's a given, right? It's a pasuk. And what is he swearing? On the part that he's denying. So you see that you have a case where the shvua is unrelated to the part that he's admitting, right? So you see, it's not necessarily connected. So perhaps the eidim could do the same. Well, mala piv, you can't compare it to piv shekain ene b'akchasha. A person, by way of his own admission, that's called piv. That's not affected by hakchasha. Meaning, suppose a person admits that he owes money, and then eidim come and override him. It doesn't work. He still pays. So that extra power, perhaps, is the basis for his ability to also trigger a shvua in the case of moed b'miktzas. Basically, piv has an advantage over eidim. Because eidim b'hakchasha are worthless, right? Well, eid echad yechiach. We'll disprove that notion by looking at the eid echad. Sheyeshna b'hakchasha. First of all, he is affected by contradiction, right? Umachay v'shvua, and still we see the eid echad can trigger a shvua. Well, 1 second. Once you're going back to eid echad, let's refocus on that. Mal eid echad, you can't compare to the eid echad. Shekein al masha meiru nishba, because there the shvua is directly opposing the eid echad. Shimon has to swear against the eid echad, meaning the eid echad is triggering a shvua because his testimony, his direct testimony, is what's triggering that shvua. So as opposed to our case with the eidim, where the shvua would be on the other part, the part that they're not speaking of, the part that he's denying that they're not speaking of. Shal masha kafar nishba. You want the shvua to come on the part that he's denying. Well, who says it can happen? Well, piv yechiach. The regular moed b'miktzas dispels that notion, because you see, when a person admits to 50, he has to swear to defend his position on the denial part. It's not going to work. But chazar din, so you're basically going back and forth, like a ping pong. The element which is triggering the shvua in one of these cases, is very different than the element in the other case. And the element you find there is not like here. So bottom line is, you can't attribute the shvua to any of these elements, because these criterions are not found in all cases. Piv is so different than the Eid Echad, etc. So what's the common denominator? Let's find an element which is common amongst all these, meaning Piv and Eid Echad. Hatzad hashava shebehen shal yidei tano kvirahim boin. The circumstance it entails a claim and denial. V'nishma, and therefore it triggers a shvua, whether it's in the case of the Piv or the Eid Echad. Afani avav yedim. Likewise, I'll include the case of the Edim, which also has that element. Shal yidei tano ut kvirahim boin. Right? So the Heimboin means that the litigants are coming to the Bezdin to deal with a claim and a denial. V'nishba. And likewise, it's going to trigger a shvua. Well, 1 second. We have another distinguishing factor to set apart the Edim from the others. You know what's common to Piv and Eid Echad, which is not found by Edim? Shekain le'usach kafran. In both cases, the fellow Shimon, our friend Shimon, was never found to be a kafram. He wasn't an established liar. In the case of Piv, look, he's admitting to 50. Who says he's lying about the rest? In the case where the Eid Echad is opposing him, who says the Eid is to be believed? Meaning, we haven't established anything yet. So therefore, he makes the shvua to prove his case. But Tamer by Edom, as opposed to our case, where Edom came and proved him false and incriminating him on the 50. Shekin he was like kafran. Here, he's an established cheat. And Rashi says, how can we now believe him with a shvua? Why should we impose a shvua on him? What's that going to help? It says, what do you mean? Who says if this fellow was found to be guilty by Edom, he's considered a kafran? If a person outright denies having taken a loan, he's still kosher to be an aid. We don't say he's a rasha, because maybe he's just stalling. He doesn't have money, poor fellow. So it's not called a kafran. But if he denies ever taking a deposit, that's bad news. What are you doing denying that? And Rashi says, was speaking that the Edom know that he has it in his possession. It wasn't like it was lost. So there's no distinction between Piv, Eid Echad, and two Edom. Well, still we'll find the distinguishing factor between those and the Edom. You know what's common to Piv and Eid Echad that is not found by Edom? Shekein einon b'teres hazama. There's no concept of Edom zaymimin by a person's own personal admission. Or when you have an Eid Echad. The halacha is that if two Edom come and attempt to incriminate somebody, let's say, financially, right? And it turns out that they're falsifying the story. They're plotters. It's called zaymimin. They're plotters, meaning another two Edom showed up and undid their testimony. How could you allege to have been at this and this location Sunday morning? Well, at that very same moment you were with us in a different city. Halach is these Edom now will have to pay that same amount that they attempted to impose on this person. And that's a knas, right? It's a penalty that they have to do. And it doesn't apply. The person himself admits it's totally irrelevant to the Edom Zayman, type of circumstance. And likewise, if an Eid Echad attempted to incriminate somebody and he's discovered to be an Eid Zayman, Rashi says, although his testimony is nullified, but he doesn't get the knas of the Edom Zayman. He doesn't have to do that payout. So bottom line, these fellows have an advantage over the Edom. The concept of Edom Zayman does apply to two Edom who are discovered to be falsifiers. They have to pay the knas. So perhaps they have a disadvantage and they cannot impose a shvua in the case of a miktsas chiv, Says the Gemara. So bottom line, we have a kasha or a b'chia who establishes for us that Edom can, when Edom come and testify to a person's partial, financial, obligation, partial financial guilt, so to speak. You do owe him part of that money. It's going to trigger a shvua. He has to defend himself with a shvua on the rest. How could he learn from Piv and Eid Echad? They have an advantage over Edom who are susceptible to hazama. Holy kasha, that's not a kasha. Rabbi Yehuda, who establishes halacha did not reckon this as a distinguishing factor. Teres hazama le parach. Why? Rashi says it's not considered a percha. It's not a refutation on this equation, because if the fact that the Edom, the Edom's susceptibility to hazama, the fact that they're affected by the hazama status, and that would be a reason. If that is a reason for them not to have the ability, you want to take away their kayach to bring a shvuah because of that reason, you know what? We would have done the same thing by the Eid Echad. Because the fact is, even though you're right, the Eid Echad can never come to have to pay that penalty. That's the halacha. There's no din of payout. The hazama payout by Eid Echad, who turns out to be a falsifier, but his edus is batal. So to a certain extent, in a certain aspect, Eid Echad is also fully susceptible to the hazama concept. So bottom line, they're both on the same plane. You can't distinguish, and there's no reason to differentiate. That's pretty much the end of the sugya. That we compare Edom to Piv and Eid Echad, just like they can impose Yeshua. Likewise, we have a case of two Edom, such as where Reuven claimed $100 against Shimon. Shimon denied it totally, and Edom came and testified to half of that amount. Shimon now has to make a shvur to defend himself and support his claim on the part that he's denying. So that's okay. Now, Elo de Ka'amar v'Tana Tuna. The question is on the second part of Reb Chia. The Tana of our Mishnah regarding Shnayim Eichsam B'Talis also supports this notion. Why? So we explained this yesterday. They're both grabbing the talis. So in effect, Reuben is yelling to Shimon, right? What are you doing? Get off my talis. It's all mine. You're taking my thing. And Shimon is in total denial. What do you mean it's mine? Now, we see our perception of this situation leads us to conclude that really Reuben has half, right? He owns at least half. So it's like Edom. It's clearly evident that Reuben owns half. So basically we have Edom against 50%. We have Edom against Shimon regarding 50%. You're in total denial. What do you mean? At least half of it belongs to Reuben. And the Mishnah says you make a shvuah. Shimon has to swear that, to support his claim. So that's going to support our idea that Edom can bring about a shvuah in this type of case. So we're going to dwell on that. We're going to ask on that. How could you compare to our Mishnah? How could you source this halacha in our Mishnah? Ela de Kamar Tana Tuna Midam. How do you compare the two things? Hasam, there. Meaning, in the case of the Bava Metzia, Lemalva Isli Sahadi. The lender has Edom that he's owed 50. Leleiva Lesli Sahadi. The Leiva has no Edom to support the party that he's denying. If the Leiva would have had Edom to support his case, Bchi would not impose a shvuah on Shimon if he has Edom to support his case. But over here, Hacha, as opposed to the case of the Mishnah, they both are supported by the facts. Hacha ki echad anan sad, just like we are sort of testimony, we're like sort of living testimony. We see behind that, Reuben is a partial owner on the part that he has in his hands. And on Sadi Bihai, we have the same perception regarding the part that's in Shimon's hands. So basically, Shimon is just as supported by our perception like Reuben is. And still you're imposing a shvuah on Shimon. Why? He's fully supported on the part that he has. So evidently, the din shvuah in our Mishnah, says Rashi, is unrelated to this halacha of Bava Metzia. It's a special takana we learned yesterday to dissuade people from grabbing other people's items in cases of Metzia and places where a person can sort of be moira heter and excuse himself and take the liberty to reach out and grab other people's things, right? So it's a special takana which is unrelated to the halacha of Bava Metzia. So that sort of highlights the kasha now. Why are we sourcing the halacha of Bava Metzia in our Mishnah, which is unrelated? Eloki itma, you're right. When we learned this halacha, this phrase v'tana tuna, we're trying to source a halacha in our Mishnah. A'idach de Reb Chia itma. It was related to a different Reb Chia's halacha, and that's going to be sourced in our Mishnah because that's similar to our Mishnah. Which one is this? Reb Chia, manali biyatcha. Reuben approaches Shimon. Look, You owe me 100, right? Shimon responds, yeah, 50, for sure. Here, take it, it's right here. Chayav. Shimon now has to swear on the part that he's denying. My time and why? Even though he's offering it to him right here, it's like any other moide b'miktsas. He's offering part of it, he's dividing to part, denying the rest, make a shvua. B'tana tuna, we have a right from our Mishnah. Shnai mechsam b'talas, right? They're both grabbing the article. Given the toughest, anan sadi the toughest helachu, because over here, it's a similar case. Reuben is demanding the whole talis. Shimon is in total denial. But we see half of it in Reuben's hands. Correct? So in a way, we look at it like sort of a de facto admission on that half. Right? Although he's not personally admitting it, but we see it. We see that Reuben is in the right on that 50. But it's more than that he's just in the right. He's actually holding it. It's like hilach. It was offered to him. It's in his possession. Uktani yishav, and the Mishnah says you have to make a shvua. And again, Rashi points out that we figured that it's all based on a shvua d'oraisa. It's ma'adir b'miktsas. So we see that hilach is chayev a shvua. Rav Sheshes disagrees. No, hilach potter. If the defendant isn't just admitting, but he's actually offering him the money, part of the money, then he's potter from his shvua. You know why? My time, given the amalei hilach, once he offers him that partial, payout, these money, these coins that he's giving him, it says, oh, the malva, Reuben is holding on to it, he's got it back. And some explain, it says, oh, he never claimed it. That's it, case closed. There's no claim on it. We're not discussing it. It's not up for discussion. We close the file on that. It's not part of the claim. It's done. The claim was sort of undone, right? So all that's left is the other 50, and he's not admitting to that. He's in total denial. That puts to rest the whole concept of Moedev Miktsas in this situation. There's no Moedev Miktsas. It's full denial. We're only left with a claim on 50, and he's fully denying. Kaifer HaKol makes no shvur. So bottom line, where's my 50? Where's my 100? 50, yeah, sure, here, take it right here. Rav Chia says, he's a Moedev Miktsas. He's admitting to part of my claim. Make a shvur. Rav Sheshes says, no. He undid the claim on that 50. It's done. It's over with. Case closed. The only outstanding claim is on the 50. And he's in full denial. Kaifer HaKol, full denial, makes no shvur. Now, Rav Sheshes kashi masnissen. What does Rav Sheshes do with our Mishnah? Which we just explained is like a halach situation. So why is he swearing? I'm Rav Sheshes. So he responds, masnissen takanas chachamim. No, it's unrelated to the shvur minat Torah. It's a special takana, like we explained before, to dissuade, grabbers. Takanas chachamim. V'idach, Rav Chia says, you're right. That's true. Takanas chachamim. But still, the chachamim typically model their takanas. They sort of mirror, they follow the deraisa templates. If you would agree with me that in a classic Moedev Miktsas, together with Helach, he still has to do the Shvua, so it works out that Metakni Rabbanon Shvua kein deraisa. Rabbanon were looking to make a Shvua because of concern that people might, be grabbing other people. So yeah, they sort of modeled it after the Shvua deraisa. Meaning, despite the fact that here we have a similar situation like a halach, because part of it is already being given back, but just like halach is chayev, here as well we make a shvur by halach. But if you would assume that halach has no shvur d'oraisa, metakni rabbanon shvur the lesser the kavasa b'd'oraisa, would it make sense that Chachamim would make a shvur, which doesn't resemble any shvur d'oraisa, sort of charting a new course? It's unlikely. And Rav Sheshes says, and Rav Chia says, that proves my point. That serves to support my opinion that in a Moedev Miktsas situation, he's chayiv even if there was a halach factor. Meisvei, here comes a kash. Kashi on who? On Rav Chia. Okay, we have a star. A loan document where they failed to specify the exact amount of that loan. Slime, dinrin, so it speaks about plural. Coins, right? Dollars, cents. How much? 100, 5, 2. Malva imechamish. The lender claims it was $5. V'leiva amar shalik. Leiva says it was 3. What happens? Rabbi Shimon Lazar Aimer, Hayil v'hoida, mikzas atani yishava. This is your classic Hoida mikzas. He's agreeing to part. Meaning 2 is a given, because it's plural. It's a question of 2 or 5, and he's admitting to 3, so he's sort of agreeing to part of the claim. You have to make a shvur. Rabbi Kiva Amar, no. He deserves a medal. Einoi ella kimesha aveda upater. The Leiva is doing him a favor. He could just stick with the default definition of the slime, which is plural. Well, it's the least amount, 2. In fact, he's offering a 3rd. He's being a decent fellow. He's a mesha aveda. The halacha is, Rashi brings that when a person returns a lost item and he's up for this, he's up against the claim of the owner who claims that he found more than he's returning. There's no shvuah. There's a takana. We want to encourage people to do a Shabbos Haved and not without concern of being vulnerable to lawsuits, right? So there's no shvuah here as well. He's doing a biggest favor. Now, Ketani Miyas. Bottom line is, what does the Brisa say? Reb Shimon Lazar Eimer, he does make a shvuah. Hoil v'hoida mikzas hatana yishava. Now, the Gemara did make a diuk. Time adam shalish. The reason why he's going to be making a shvuah, that's because he responded with 3. Right? So he admitted to part of the claim. Hashtayim pater. But let's say he would have admitted to 2 coins, then he would be pater from a shvuah. Why? V'haishtar the kamoid behelachu, because the 2 is really in the shtar. Even without his admission, right? The simple basic meaning of slime is 2. So that's like helach. Why is it helach? Because the amount that's indicated in the shtar is fully accessible to the malva. Rashi explains because the shtar allows him to access the borrower's properties. It sort of imposes an automatic lien on his property, so it's accessible to the malva for an easy collection. It's like helach. It's like he has it accessible in his hands. And what do we see? Even though the shtar the kamoid bei helach, the shtar that he's admitting to, that the amount that he's admitting to, which is actually in the shtar, is really like an helach. Ushmamino helach pater. So what do we see? There's no chiyuv of moed mixas there. He's pater because helach is pater. It's a kasher of chiyuv. Lo, he says chayiv. The truth is that even if he would admit to 2, he's also considered moed mixas and is chayiv ishvur. Because even though it's helach, it's chayiv. Like Reb Chia. So why does the Mishnah, why does the Brisa cite the number 3? Not because 3 is opposed to 2. Because we're trying to highlight something here. We're trying to bring out a point. That has to make a shvuah, as opposed to Rabbi Kiva's opinion. Rabbi Kiva considered him a Mesha Aveda, right? Lafukim and Rabbi Kiva, the Omar Mesha Aveda Potter. Rabbi Kiva says, well, if you're going up to 3, you're adding. That's Hashavas Aveda, you're Potter. Mashman comes to Rabbi Shimon Lazar says, no, even in that case, the moida mixas hatanavi, and you have to make a shvuah v'chayiv. Yachi. But that's true. That according to the first shita, which is Rav Shimon Lazar, he would make a shvuah regardless of whether he says 2 or 3. Yachi. So, the wording would have been a bit different in the Brisa. Yachi. Rav Shimon Lazar Eimer, he should have said it like this: Hayil v'haida mixas. He does, right? He says, we're quoting now. Rav Shimon Lazar Eimer, Hayil v'haida mixas atani yishava. when he admits to 3 because it's a partial admission, makes a shvua, he should have said it differently. That even 3 is chayiv, even by 3, not only by 2, even by 3 when he's actually adding, he's offering extra. Don't say it's Shabbos Aveda. You should have said it like that. If it's true that even by 2 is chayiv yeshua. Elul Ilmstein, Potes, and hold it. You're right. Your inference is 100% right. The diuk is correct. He's only chayiv yeshua by 3, but by 2 he's potter. But not because of halach. Unrelated to halach. Halach chayiv. Typically halach was chayiv. So why would this be different? Because here we're dealing with a totally different circumstance. Because it's a shtar. V'shan yachad de'kamasayli shtara. Plain and simple. The wording of the shtar is in support of his claim, because the shtar does not enumerate any numbers here, doesn't stipulate any amount. That leads us to believe that the Edom who signed the shtar knew that it was only 2, and that's why they left it as plural. Otherwise they would have included a number. So this fellow who's claiming 2 is being supported by the shtar. Of course he doesn't have to swear. Inami, another reason why he wouldn't have to swear if he's only admitting to 2, mishum nahavli shtar shibit kakoyz, because anything that's included in that shtar relates to shibut karkois. Like you explained, the person borrows money and it's drafted into it's formalized in a shtar. Then all his assets, all his properties are meshubut, are bound to that loan. So once we start discussing whether denying or admitting claims which are have been formulated formally in a shtar, then you're relating to property lien, related claims. That's called shibud hakoyz, and there's no shvua. Ve'ein nishboin al kfira shibud hakoyz. We never make a shvua, whether it's when you deny shibud hakoyz, or in this case when you're admitting to a certain extent about shibud hakoyz. Allah is we don't make a shvua on karka-related claims, and Rashi brings the Gemara in Shvuos as such. So bottom line, we thought we had a kasha or a b'chia. We thought this was a halach situation, and you're potter. No. True, you would be potter if you're only admitting to 2, but unrelated to halach, for other reasons. Either because the shtar is supporting your claim, or because there's a shibud karkois element. Others had a different version. They were going to ask a kasha on Rav Sheshes, from the second part of the brayso, from Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva, when he responds with the number 3, you're potter. Time of the mashalish. It's only because he added the third. Hoshtaim chayiv. If he would stick with 2, he would be chayiv. Moedu miktzas. Why? V'hoshtar the kamoedu be'kelach dami. As we explained before, any amount, in this case the number 2, which is sort of implied from the shtar, is like halach, because it's fully accessible to the malva. It can go straight to the assets. So clearly we see that even a halach situation can trigger a shvua by the miktzas. No, it's not a kasha of sheshes. Perhaps even if you would admit only to 2, it would be potter because of halach. Why does Rabbi Kiva mention the exemption from the shvua by 3? Lafuki b'drab Shimon Elazar, because he's trying to bring out a point, as opposed to the other shita, the Amar Moed Miktzas Hatana Havi B'Chayv, who considers it a Moed Miktzas. Kamashmon Kazur Kiva says no. When I added a third, that's Hashavas Haveda, I deserve a medal. The Meish Haveda Havei Pot. Achanam Mistav, in fact, we'll prove it to be true. This Akadaitach Shtayim Chayev, because if it was in fact true that by responding with the number 2, that would trigger a shvua. So now when this fellow added a third, who says he's trying to be an honest fellow? Maybe he's just playing tricks, playing games. He knows that if he would say 2, it's moedu miktzas. So he says, you know what? Instead of claiming 2 and having to make a shvua and then, getting himself into trouble, he'll say, you know what? Let me offer him a third. I'll have to take it, because then I'll be a Hashavas Haveda fellow. B'shalosh hechi potter Rabbi Kiva. Why does Rabbi Kiva say he's potter by 3? Maybe he's just playing games. It's just a ploy, it's a trick, it's a ruse. It's an investment. He's adding a third in order to exempt himself from his shvuah. So he can get away with 3 instead of more. Hiya, Rumika Mara, I'm just playing a game. Alright, I'm just playing games. Savar, he figures, if I would respond with the number 2, but I would have to make a shvuah. Because it's not a Shabbos Aveda. Eima Shalish, you know what? I'll offer him a third. The Avik Mesha Aveda. Now I'll be labeled as a Mesha Aveda. I'll be Pata from a shvuah. So it undoes our whole, the basis of considering him a Mesha Aveda sort of falls by the wayside. If anything, we should be fully suspect of the fact that perhaps he's just orchestrating this Shabbos Aveda perception, which is not really true. Oh, so apparently we have to prove that if he would respond with number 2, he'd be Pater. Because it's Halach. So really he has nothing to gain by adding a third. If he would say 2, he's also Pater. And the fact that he chose to add a third, Hashavas Aveda. So now, Elakash l'Rabchia. So once we've proven this to be true, that even by responding with number 2, he's Pater because of Halach, that's a Kash l'Rabchia. Who says Halach is Chayev? Oh, here it's very different. Remember, there's a shtar, and we have those 2 reasons why a shtar changes things, right? Shani Hasam, number 1, the Kamasai shtar, the shtar supports him. Of course he's Pater. Because the Lashon Rabbim, the shtar, indicates that's just 2. Otherwise they would elaborate and explain the number. Inami, another reason why, when he responds with the number 2, he's Pater, Mishum Dehavali Shtar Shibit Karkois. Because it relates to a lien on Karka, and we explained before, Ve'inish Boyin, Al Kvir Shibit Karkois, the little Shvuah relates to claims and denials and admissions regarding Karka. So bottom line, the classic way the Mitzvahs entails, where's my $100? Oh, here, I owe you 50. He makes a shvuah on the other part. Halach means I'm offering it to you right now. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a regular way of Mitzvahs. According to Rabbi Sheshes, no. That 50 is off the table. Now we're dealing with just 50. A claim and a denial on 50. That's okay for Akil. In the first version, we thought we had a kasha on Rav Sheshes, and we answered it. The second part, we thought we had a kasha on Rav Chia, and we answered it. Here comes another kasha. Mosiv Mazut Rebbe Rav Nachman. So this is a Mishnah Masechah Shvuos. Tanoi Kelim Kakois. Where's my land? Where's my Kelim? How does he respond? Hoyde bekelim, v'kafa b'kakois. Okay, yeah, here's your car, but karka, that's mine. Or the other way. Hoyde b'kakois, v'kafa b'kelim. He admitted to the karka, he denied the kelim. In both cases, he's Pater. Because as we explained, any denial or admission relating to karka does not trigger a shvuah. Likewise, hoida mixas kakois Pater. If he admitted to part of the land, also Pater. But mixas kelim chayev. If he admitted to part of the kelim, that's a classic way to mixas, and he has to make a shvuah. End of halacha. Now let's make a diuk. Tam at the kelim kakois. The only reason why he does not make a shvuah in the first cases is because there was a double claim, kelim and karka. The karka la bashvuhi, because you can't make a shvuah on karka related claims. Oh, kelim v'kelim. Well, let's say in a similar case, but instead of speaking about karka, we have kelim and kelim. You owe me 2 cars, but it's in a similar fashion to land. Dumya the kelim kakois. Let's say you would have a kelim situation similar to kelim kakois. What does that mean? Just like karka is right here. So let's say the kelim that he's admitting to are right here. Chayiv, he would have to make a shvuah. Hechadami, for instance, lav damar lehelach. In the case where he's offering it to him right here. Ushmam no helach chayiv. So clearly, helach is also considered by the mixas and triggers a shvuah. It's a right to Rabbi Yehuda. Perhaps, if he claimed 2 kelim and one of them is right here and he's returning it, he would be pater. That's not called the way to mixas. So why does the Mishnah specifically discuss kelim and karka, if the same thing can theoretically apply to kelim and kelim? How Kamash, from the point of the Mishnah is to say that even though karka cannot trigger a shvua, but hoida b'miktas kelim, chayev alav hakakos. If he had a double claim, my kelim, my karka, and he admitted to part of the kelim, that's a moed b'miktas. So although karka on its own cannot trigger a shvua, but once there's a shvua being triggered by the kelim, he can include a shvua. We can compel him to incorporate a shvua to defend his denial, to support his claim on the karka too. Like we explained before, that's the concept of gilgul shvua. You can't initiate it on karka, but once you have it going, you include the karka as well. And the Gemara asks on that, Mike Mashma, what's the point of this Mishnah? So you can bundle together. Oh, we already have the Mishnah in Kedushin. Tanina zoikikin anachasim she'ena nachrayis, which is a phrase used to describe non-secure entities like mobiles, like items, like objects. So when those items trigger a shvua, they can be zoikik, they can incorporate, they can oblige a shvua even on land, on secure assets, which is real estate. That's anachasim she'ena nachrayis l'shavalein. To impose a shvua on them. So we already have that Mishnah there. Why discuss it again in Shavuos? In Masechah Shavuos. Hacha Ikar. Says the Gemara, you're right. The Mishnah Masechah Shavuos, discussed before, is sort of the focal point. That's the primary. That's what we discuss the halachos of Shavuot. That's the Ikar place. Hasam Agar Gra Naspa. There in Kedushin, it's just brought sort of by the way on account of discussing similar ideas regarding kinyanim, right? You can once you get the kinyan on the karka, you can use that same kinyan on the other things. So we sort of getting on the track of bundling and tying things together. So we bring this halacha as well. You can tie together the karka with the kelim in the same shvur. So it's not necessarily a repetition. It's just sort of reviewed together with the other halacha. Agav grora. Okay, continue Bez Hashem tomorrow. Bottom line, we have two Rav Chias today. First, the Rav Chias says, just as when a person self-admits to have that claim, is chayav yeshua. Likewise, if the Edom obligate him to pay part of that claim, that imposes a shvua, that triggers a shvua on the rest, part is that he's denying. We have a second Rav Chias that, a case of moed b'miktas, which involves halach. There's also chayav yeshvu. It's supposed to have sheish. It says hilchas pater, and we had some riots back and forth from a brisa and then from a mishnah. To be continued by Hashem tomorrow. All the best to you and atzlachara.